Alrighty, guys. All Facts Media here, bringing you another episode of Coach's Corner. I'm Aaron Robinson, joined by my twin brother Andrew Robinson, and today we have a special guest. We have newly announced Wake Forest head coach Steve Forbes. Coach, thanks for joining us.
Well, guys, thanks for having me. It's been a crazy couple of months here since I got the job, and just happy to be the head coach at Wake Forest. And actually, this is the first week. Full week I've actually lived in Winston-Salem, and so things are on the up and up.
Yes, sir. I mean, you mentioned that, this has definitely been one of the most hectic, couple months. Let's talk about that transition. You go from, winning your conference at East Tennessee State, having a spectacular year, and then, next thing you know, you're the head coach at Wake Forest. Let's kind of talk about that whirlwind of the process.
Well, it was very emotional, guys. Like you said, we won the SoCon regular season title, 16-2. We rolled through the tournament. We were 30-4, going into the NCAA tournament, and had won the conference tournament on a Monday night. And the great thing about that tournament is in the SoCon is you got a whole week to kind of enjoy before you even get to Selection Sunday. And so, we were hanging out, kind of chilling and enjoying each other. And then, I think it was a Wednesday night, Rudy Gobert came down with the COVID and the coronavirus. And then the next day, the tournament was canceled. And it just kept happening fast, And then Friday, they tell us we got to be out of the office, off campus by next week. And so now all of a sudden the players are going home. And honestly, I haven't seen some of those guys since that day, and that just is hard to imagine that happening like that fast, and not only not being able to see them, but not playing in the NCAA tournament, none of it, So then we're at home, for a few weeks, and we get all our recruiting done. We're rolling, we're back to being going to have a great chance to win the league again. And then on a Sunday night, while I was getting ready to sit down and watch Jordan, the second episode of that Jordan deal, phone rings on 1st of May, and it's John Curry, the AD at Wake Forest, and he asked me if I'd, be interested in the job. And, we talked that night. We did a Zoom interview on Monday for a couple of hours. We did a Zoom interview on Tuesday with Tim Duncan and Chris Paul and President Hatch and a couple other people. And on Wednesday, I met John Curry that night on a Tuesday in North Carolina. And Wednesday we negotiated the contract, and Thursday I was the head coach. And so, it's happened crazy. But I have to tell you guys, I have to be, anybody that's gotten the job like I've gotten it, the only coaches in the history of college basketball to never meet their team yet. I mean, you think about it, I got the job on May 9th, and I still haven't met my team. It's, whatever day it is today, hopefully on July 15th, I'll get a chance to meet them. But it's been hard. It's been hard to develop relationships with them. It's been hard to recruit that way. And we're recruiting 3 classes. We're trying to finish 20, trying to, get into 21 and then get on 22. And so the whole thing is there's no manual in my 31 years that I could go back and look at and say, here's how you do it.
Yeah. Right. I mean, just be a little bit, about that process. Just how you've been trying to deal, since you got in the job with the recruiting aspect, with and trying to get acclimated to a new job, all during a global pandemic, that's been going on. What have you tried to do to just try to stay on track and to get the program going?
Well, just trying to get momentum the best way we can and get our name out there, and get it, give it a bit of a spark. And I'll be honest with you, I'm a relationship coach, and so it's hard to do that when you can only do it on the phone or through a computer. Yeah. And so we've used every source of technology that we can use to connect, not only with recruits, but with our fans, with the community. But you got to realize for the last month, I lived in Johnson City, Tennessee. I wasn't even down here in Winston-Salem There's really no reason to be down here. The players weren't here. The campus wasn't open. And so it really didn't truly feel like I was the head coach at Wake until I moved in to here, to my home now in Winston-Salem last week.
Yeah.
So, we've done everything we can do, but we're pretty limited. Now, we're not the only people that are limited. Everybody's limited, but we're starting from scratch.
Yeah.
And so we've done, I don't know how many of these Zoom calls, Zoom interviews, Zoom recruiting. I mean, we've zoomed, and try to use it the best we can and add technology to it. And then, try to connect with the people here in Winston-Salem. When I first got the job, guys, the restaurants weren't even open. There was nothing open here. So I'd come down on a Monday and stay here till Friday and stay in a hotel and then go back to Johnson City. And finally, after a couple of weeks of that, I just said, really no sense in coming down here till things change. And so I stayed in Johnson City, Tennessee for pretty much the month of June.
Right. So, talk about, how hard that choice was to leave East Tennessee State. I know, like you mentioned before, you guys were 30-4, won the SoCon, and you were pretty much getting ready to, like you mentioned, give another go next year. How hard was that decision to leave East Tennessee State and then make the jump to Wake Forest?
Well, it's a hard decision because I had a great job and I had great people around me. I had great players. I had the best president anybody could ever have. And Dr. Brian Nolan, Scott Carter, my AD, Dr. Sanders, who hired all these people were all bought into our program. And, Coach Marshall, Greg Marshall, I worked for Wichita State. He taught me a long time ago not to mess with happy, and so I was happy. My family was happy. I could have easily retired there. We've been very happy. We've been there 5 years, won 130 games in 5 years. And I didn't really see that changing, but when the opportunity comes, and I had interviewed for some jobs, guys, and turned some down, and a couple of them didn't get through the 5 years I was there. But I wasn't in a hurry. And but when the opportunity comes to not only coach in the ACC, but also have the opportunity to offer a top 30 education to a young man, that's a hard thing to not do. Historically, the ACC is the best league in America. Historically, the best teams, the best coaches, the best players. We have this, like I said, top 30 education. So it's books and basketball. Sometimes it's just basketball, sometimes it's books. At this institution, you get both. You get the number one league, you get the top education. It's a great thing. And then tremendous facilities. Brand new facility, a practice facility built by Mitch Shaw, who's a part-time owner of the Atlanta Hawks. We got all this tradition. The names, Tim Duncan, Chris Paul, on and on and on. Okay, so it just needed somebody to breathe some life back into it. Everything is here, to be successful. And so it just all matched up. And then the final thing was John Curry. John Curry was one of my associate AD at Tennessee when I was there. He's the AD here. And so when one thing for a coach is you want to have a great partnership with your administration. And I knew John. I've known John for 15 years. And so that made me very comfortable wanting to come here. So all those things kind of lined up, and, there it was. It wasn't like I was laying in bed at night thinking about, going to Wake or, leaving my job. It just happened, and here we are.
Now, obviously, like Drew mentioned before, you guys had an incredible season, 30-4, won your league championship, was getting ready to go to the NCAA tournament, and the coronavirus put a stop to all that. Talk about the moment when you had to go in the locker room or go, text and tell the team that you guys weren't going to be able to play in the tournament. A lot of those guys, like our guy Joe Hughley, had never got a chance to play in the tournament. It was going to be his first time, and then for that to happen, just talk about the moment that you had to share that with your team.
It's not fun, especially for those seniors, like you said. Joe Hughley's one of them. Jerome Rodriguez, Isaiah Tisdale, Trey Boyd, Lucas Gasson. I mean, we had these really incredible seniors and a great team. But I had rode them hard all year about hanging their own banner, playing in the tournament. That was our driving force. And when something like that gets taken away from you, and at no fault of your own, you know what I mean? They didn't do anything wrong.
Yeah.
They didn't create coronavirus. They didn't. It just got taken from them. It's a difficult, and I'm an emotional person. I have a deep connection with my players, and so it was hard. And then to add to that, you think to make it even worse that was the last time I saw him. And then when I had to tell him I was going to Wake Forest, I had to do it like you and I are doing it right now.
Right.
That's wrong, man. And there was no other way to do it, but I never envisioned that I would say goodbye to my team on a computer. I thought, I'd be there, I'd talk to them, I'd hug them. I'd tell them it's going to be okay. We would have time to visit.
Yeah.
I mean, I just went from one computer to the next, and I hate that. Now, a lot of those guys have been back to Johnson City since and came by the house, and we've had a great time. And those guys will probably all come work camp here at Wake Forest. And, I hired Joe. You think about hiring Joe, I only had Joe for 1 year, right? And Joe was the best leader, best team guy I think I've ever been around. He's a grad transfer. Most grad transfers expected what? Start, play, shoot all the balls. A lot of times sometimes he didn't play. Sometimes he didn't start. But he's one of the main reasons why we made the tournament was because of his off the court, on the court leadership and his attitude. And so when I got the opportunity to come to Wake, I wanted him to come with me. And so he's one of my assistant coaches at a very young age, just got his master's in 1 year, extremely intelligent, just doesn't know when to shut up sometimes. But that's my job. And so, and I'm not afraid of that job, to be honest with you. So he's a good one. He's a great one.
I mean, so for you, you talked about coaching, at Tennessee, coaching at Wichita State. Can I talk about your journey? I mean, what has brought you here, from East Tennessee State and to Wake Forest, kind of, talk about your journey.
Well, I'm a product of my journey, and I wouldn't trade it for anything. Now, it's not one that most people would ever probably take. And if you go all the way back to the when I was in college, late 80s, 87, 86, I wrote 200 typed on a computer, 200 letters to be a GA and got 199 rejections, okay? I got one guy that said he might be interested in me. That was Don Dyer, who was at that time was Scottie Pippen's coach at Central Arkansas. I played at Southern Arkansas. I played baseball and basketball. I didn't play basketball at Southern, just baseball. And so from there, I didn't get it. So I became the SID at Southern Arkansas my first year. We got married my wife. We lived in a one-room cabin with no heat. I made $6,000 a year with no benefits. And she taught Waldo, Arkansas. She taught the fourth grade and made $12,000. So we were rolling. And, but I still wanted to coach. I had that burning desire. I didn't really want to be an SID, but it kept me in college. I wanted to coach at the college level. The following year, I got my first coaching job at Southwestern Community College in Creston, Iowa. And I had to coach baseball and basketball, assistant, and I had to work in economic development. And I did that for a couple of years, and then I became the head basketball coach at about the age of 25, 26, okay? And I didn't know Sikkim, nothing. No, but I knew to get good players. And I still believe in that today is what? Good players make good coaches, right?
Yeah.
And so in recruit offense and coach defense, I've always believed that too. But from there, my journey just kind of took off, guys. And so I went from Southwestern to Barton County Community College in Great Bend, Kansas. And I was there for, 5 years or 4 years, 2 as assistant, 2 as a head. So I did 9 years of junior college. And then I got my first Division I job at the University of Idaho. Sight unseen. Never been there, never went, just took the job. Went out there with Dave Farrar for a couple of years and then got hired at Louisiana Tech with Keith Richard. My wife's from Louisiana, so it was kind of like we were going home a little bit. Signed our first NBA player at that point, Paul Millsap, played at La Tech. And then went to Illinois State and worked with Porter Moser in his first year. Who ended up coaching in the Final Four, Loyola. I went to Texas A&M with Billy Gillespie, turned it around at A&M, and had the largest turnaround in college basketball our first year there. And then I went to Tennessee with Bruce Pearl for 5 years and averaged about 26 wins a year. Went to the Elite Eight, the only team in the history of Tennessee to go to the Elite Eight. And then we got fired. We got fired for a recruiting violation. Coach had some guys over to his house that weren't supposed to be there. And so what do? I've been coaching 22 years. I'm at the top, as far as an assistant is concerned, and now I get fired. So I go back to junior college, and I will not trade that for anything. I went back to Northwest Florida, and went 62-6. Went to 2 national championships and lost them both, unfortunately. And then Greg Marshall called me, and I had a really good friend, Chris Jans, who's the head coach in Mexico State now, and Greg Heyer, both Iowa guys. They were on the staff at Wichita. They're just coming off the Final Four. And, I was coming off, being fired. And so I was very fortunate that Greg Marshall gave me the opportunity to go to Wichita State. And there I am. In the first year, we're 35-1. Fred Van Fleet, Clee Anthony Early, Ron Baker. But I didn't have anything to do with that. I was just along for the ride, to be honest. And then the next year we went 30-4, and we beat Indiana and Kansas in the NCAA tournament. And that's when East Tennessee State called me and offered me, the job. And so that road is very windy, but I think it's made me who I am. I think, and don't think no disrespect for you being younger. I'm older, but I think a lot of times younger guys, they just want it now. They want to hit a single and then land on third base. I had to work my way around the bases, fellas. And I had to go up and down that ladder a couple of times. And I didn't get my first Division I job till I was 50. And I don't know how many people are really willing to truly grind it out like that. But I was, and I'm glad I did. And when I got my opportunity, I took advantage of it. I hired great people around me. Jason Shea, who got my job at East Tennessee State. Brooks Savage is with me here. B.J. Mackey. I hired Penny Collins early on at East Tennessee State. He's the head coach at Tennessee State. And like I said, averaged 26 wins a season. For 5 years. And when you do that, then the other doors will open. And the best way to get a job is to do a great job with the one that you have. And I think that's another thing that people don't understand is like, how do you get a job? Well, you do a good one. You do a good job with the one that you have, and then people come calling. And so that's the way I've always kind of looked at it. And it's been a great journey. I graduated with 32 people in Lone Tree, Iowa. With 2 stop signs, and here I am, a head coach in the ACC. It's been a pretty interesting path.
Sir, you've been a part of some incredible teams, some incredible players that you've had the opportunity to coach, and have had a whole lot of success. Just throughout your coaching career. What do you think has attributed to that the most? What have you taken from these coaches that you've coached under? Your Greg Marshalls and Billy Gillespie's and Bruce Pearls and all these guys. How you think that what you've learned from them has contributed to the success that you've had today, and just how you think that you've gotten here?
Well, I think first thing you got to do is you got to know who you are. and I didn't know who I was early on. I was trying to be somebody that I wasn't because I saw it on TV or I read it in a book or I went to a clinic, you know what I mean? When you finally become comfortable with who you are, then you can really start to develop as a coach. So that took me some time, but I was fortunate. I was in junior college, so I could make some mistakes, and it wasn't life or death. And I worked for some great administrators there as well. But I think I really started to find myself was when I went to work for Billy Gillespie, and tremendous basketball coach, tremendous defensive coach. And that's where I started to learn about identity. And everybody wants to talk about culture, but I think you got to have identity before you have culture. And you have to know who you are and what you stand for. And so over the years, when you work for people like as talented as Billy and then Bruce and then Coach Marshall, and these guys are all different in their own ways, but they have some of the same beliefs. You just, you got to grab some things that work for you. But again, you can't be somebody that you're not. And I'll give you an example. My first year at East Tennessee State, I ran an offense, very complicated offense in the first semester, something that we did at Wichita, but, we didn't have Fred VanVleet. I mean, Fred's a pretty damn good player, and so it was my fault. We came home for Christmas. I think we were like 5-7, something, not playing great. And I told my wife, like, Christmas, I said, it's my fault. I'm overcoaching. And so I cut the playbook to 5 plays when we came back and let my guys play. And we won 19 games after Christmas. So we won 24. And so, but it was my fault. But again, it's an example of trying to be somebody that you're not, trying to be a system that didn't fit our guys. And so I've just kind of begged and borrowed and taken things from those guys. And I'm lucky that I can call them when I need them. And so, but you have to fit to your personality. And that's what I've been able to do is just to take pieces from those programs and fit my own personality.
Yep. Now, I mean, for me and my brother and I were a little younger, but I mean, I remember when Wake Forest was ranked number 1 in the country not too long ago. You know what I'm saying? I remember watching guys like Chris Paul, and I remember hearing about guys like Tim Duncan that played there. I mean, for you, like, what does it mean to be coaching at a school like that does have basketball tradition in the ACC? And kind of what are your plans to try to get it back there?
Well, it means everything. I mean, it's the reason why I took the job is because I knew the history of the program. East Tennessee State was the same way before I went there, just different players, okay? Tremendous success in the 90s. Had Mr. Keith Mr. Jennings, all right? Won 4 league titles in a row, went to the NCAA tournament, won a couple in late 2000, 2010, and then kind of fell off, okay? Well, it's the same thing here, right? I mean, tremendous Skip Prosser, Dave Odom, great runs, great players, tremendous support. People love basketball. And then it fell off a little bit, and still have had some really good players. It just needs that, and that's what I'm here for, is to do that in a lot of different ways. Not just winning, but getting out in the community and having good kids and graduating, and then competing in the ACC. And like you said, playing meaningful games in March, cutting down some nets, hanging some banners. Listen, if Wichita State and George Mason and Butler and Loyola can go to the Final Four, then why can't Wake Forest? I mean, we have as much or more than any of those programs. It's just you got to get in the tournament. You got to be playing well. You got to get a good seed. And sometimes you got to get a good draw. But those things can all happen here. Now, it's going to take a little time, but we came here to win. And I don't think there's any reason why we can't. Everything's here in place to do it. We just got to go get some really good players.
Now, switching gears a little bit, obviously right now in America, we're going through an extremely challenging time with obviously the coronavirus, but also with the racial tensions that have been going on in America surrounding, the George Floyds and everything that's going on in the country. So obviously you haven't been able to, talk to your players in person about it, but, what have you shared with them? How have you tried to be there for them? And how have you kind of navigated this process, with your players? Have you spoken to them about what's going on? And,
Yeah.
what has this whole time been like for you?
Well, it's again, and I'm not, trying to make excuses, but, I don't really know my players, because I haven't been able to sit with them face to face, guys. And I mean, I just don't believe that you really know somebody until you spend some time with them, And so I think it was, I would imagine it's been harder for my players to open up to me because they don't really know me, and I don't blame them. You know what I mean? And that's probably the number one thing that I'm looking forward to, not the workouts, is just sitting in my office with them and talking to them, right? But yeah, when it came out, it obviously it really bothered me. I grew up in a way different situation. I grew up in an all white town, and but my parents raised me to love, just to have love in my heart and love people for who they are, not what they look like or religion. So I struggle with that type of behavior. I just struggle with it. And it upsets me. And so, I talk to the players about trying to talk to them about their own personal experience. Because you guys know, everybody has their own personal experience. Nobody has the same experience when it comes to things like this. And so just wanted to give them a voice. I wanted them to tell them that, I'm here for them. This is not what I don't condone this behavior. In fact, I'm on the NABC Racial Reconciliation Committee with Tommy Amaker and Frank Martin. Jonathan Walton works here. He's in charge of our divinity school. Strong Black man. He's going to be a mentor to our players. And you got Joe Hughley. His job is to be with the players, relationships, and he's developing a list right now of things that our players want to do, for Black Lives Matter or social injustice or whatever it is. I'm going to be here for them. And so it's not something we're going to solve in one day, but I do believe this. We got to teach our children. I wasn't raised that way, and I could have easily been. Come on, man. So I know you're not born that way. Okay. And so to me, I want to spend time with young people, kids, children, teaching them, that's not how we think and that's not the way to be. And we did a lot of that in our community at East Tennessee State. A lot of young children that really looked up, to our players. And I think that's powerful. And, and so that's kind of the way I look at it. But I think we can't just talk about today, guys, and then forget about it, right? Like we can't go play one game on MLK Day and think that's going to solve the problems. It's not. And we have to continue to talk about it. And people like me have to, people that have a voice, God has given me this opportunity to be a head basketball coach, but not just to be the basketball coach, but to have a voice in these type of, community civic things. And so I'm not going to be quiet. I can promise you that. And I'm going to support my players up to the best of my ability.
So, I mean, you mentioned that Joe Hughley has kind of talked to your players and kind of brought some things up that they would like to do. Has he shared any of those things with you, or do you have any ideas for like playing?
Yeah, I mean, I think just some simple things. I mean, but again, these guys, they just got back like last week. And so, one thing we're going to talk about doing is maybe watching a movie together, Amistad or, who knows, pick a movie and talk about it, I can't remember something. They're wanting to get a T-shirt to wear, to work out in, with a slogan on it, simple things. We haven't really talked about what we want. I want to do something in the community, obviously, and I want to do something on campus. There's a pastor, guys, up where you guys are at. You ever heard of Brett Fuller? He's the pastor for the Washington Redskins, and I think he's in Arlington, maybe. Anyway, he gave the most powerful presentation I've ever seen on social injustice, racism, to the committee I'm on with NABC. I have the link to it. I'll try to share it with you. But I'm going to have my team watch that when we get together. So I think that's going to evolve, and if you guys got some ideas, share them with Joe, and I'm all about it. I just I kind of want to put the ball in their court, and then just listen. Sometimes to be a leader, guys, you just got to be a good listener, and I tell my coaches that a lot of times in recruiting. Sometimes you just got to shut up and listen, and they'll tell you the answers and ask the right questions, and so that's kind of how I look at this right now. For me, is just, asking some questions and shutting up and listening to what they have to say.
One thing, we're talking to a lot of players and former players through these times, they've kind of felt like a lot of their administrations or coaching staffs, haven't been really equipped to deal with this issue. A lot of them have said, oh, I don't know what to do, or, are stuck behind this blurred line, I guess, between, not wanting to be too controversial, but also wanting to support your players. And, how you think as coaches and as administrators, you guys, can make sure that your players know that you guys are with them, that you guys, stand with them, and how you think coaches can be better, with educating themselves and getting out there in front of these issues?
Well, first of all, to educate yourself, you got to pick up the phone and make some phone calls and talk to people that have been through the things that you've never been through. I've never walked in your shoes. Nobody's ever hated me as far as I know because of the color of my skin, and so I think first and foremost for me was just to pick up the phone and call my friends, and then ask questions. I also think it's important to read. I have a history degree. This is embarrassing. You think about this. I mentioned this the other day. In 1987, 88, I graduated with a history degree. And I never, in my entire life, I've never taken a Black history class. How's that possible? Okay. So I think education, I think reading. There's a great example of that. Who was the young man from Harvard that got arrested? Aiken, I think. Was that his name for protest?
Oh, it was Jeff Towns.
Okay. Well, there's a great article in the newspaper about it, and he raised his awareness by going to dinner every Sunday night with Jonathan Walton, who's now on our campus but was at Harvard. And what he did is he went to dinner there every Sunday night, and then Jonathan had this great library, and he just started to read. He just started to pick a book and read. And so I think we have to educate ourselves. We can't sit here and learn by osmosis. We got to ask questions, and we got to ask some hard questions. And we got to be able to handle the answers. So that's how I look at it. I guess I'm more proactive than reactive. And then I think I don't care what other people think. I mean, I think it's important that our players know, at least my players know, I'm behind them. They're my players, and I am. And so, and guys, listen, everybody's gonna be different in this. But I'm very proud of what we've done at Wake and gotten out in front of it. And I think John Curry's on top of it. But each person is going to have their own personal experience with this, and so I look at it for me more is learning more and then asking questions to my players and asking them how they feel and learning from them and what they've been through. For me, that's the most important.
So, the last thing I wanted to ask you was, obviously we came out yesterday, the day before, the Big Ten announced that they're only going to do conference play. The Ivy League has canceled fall sports. Yep. For you guys, what are you doing as a coach to kind of prepare for the what if the ACC makes a move as far as, no out-of-conference play for the coronavirus? Or have you ever thought about the possibility that there is no season this year? And kind of what have your thoughts been about everything that's kind of developed in the last day or so with this?
Really, guys, I just wake up every day and attack it each day because it changes so much. And we just discussed how our season went from euphoria to sadness. And so, or March Madness to March Sadness, right? So I don't worry about it. I don't know what's going to happen. Nobody knows what's going to happen. I'm very optimistic there's going to be a season, but I'm not going to sit here and tell you how it's going to happen today. I think it's foolish for us to look ahead more than 30 days at a time right now, because we can't predict what we're in, because this is unprecedented, right? And so, Big Ten did what they wanted to do. That's fine, but we're going to do what we want. The ACC will make the right decision, and when we do, I'll be behind it. But I'm not really, it's kind of wasted energy, guys. To worry about things you can't control. I've always been a big believer in that as a coach. Is you worry about the things that affect winning and losing, and then the other stuff doesn't really matter as much. And that's the same thing with this, in my opinion. I can't control it. And I'm on these ACC head coaches meetings every week, and they're great. They're informative, and Coach K, Coach Boeheim, and Coach Williams, and Coach Hamilton, and Tony Bennett, all the guys. And there's all kinds of information, Mike Bray, but we don't really know, right? And so it'd be foolish for me to worry about it. I just try to do what's best for my family and for my team, every day in our institution. And then what happens, and we'll be there when it's ready to happen.
Well, another last question we have for you today, Coach. We want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for getting on with us today. We really appreciate it, and we know you're a busy man. So, thanks again, and we want to wish you guys the best of luck this year at Wake Forest. We know you guys are gonna, do great things, and again, just thank you for sitting down with us today.
Well, guys, it's been a pleasure. Like I said, I apologize to you again that Joe Hughley, but I won't ever hold that against you, okay? But he's a great one. And again, if I can ever come back on, let me know. I'd love to come back on and support you guys. And hopefully next time we talk, we'll be talking about our basketball season.
Absolutely, for sure. We'll definitely get you back on here, Coach. And until that time, man, keep on keeping on, and best of luck.
Thanks, guys. Take care. Have a great day.
You too. Thank you.